Mindset Transformations radio show with your host, Coach Myrna. Do you feel the need to do more with your life? Are limiting beliefs holding you back from true success? Enjoy a unique blend of interviews, discussions, and transformation coaching in every show. Get the tools for success. The Mindset Transformation radio show with your host, Coach Myrna.
Welcome to the Mindset Transformation radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and today we continue on our series, Funding, Fixing, and Flipping. And specifically, we're going to talk on the topic, what are the pros and cons of an LLC for real estate investment? So, if you are a regular in our show, you know that the Funding, Fixing, and Flipping series, I co-host that with an expert, Mr. Trevor Evans. And Trevor is an expert because he is an investor and he is a teacher and trainer for the Rich Dad Education. So, Trevor, welcome again to the Mindset Transformation Show, our Funding, Fixing, and Flipping series. It is a pleasure to have you co-host with me, and also I know that you're sacrificing to be on the show because you're very busy. So thank you so much, and I say namaste because I honor you.
Well, thank you very much, Myrna. It's definitely a pleasure to be a part of this series, and I appreciate the fact that you have me on, and anything that I could do to impart knowledge is always good for me and good for everyone else.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I think Oprah is one that says everything is better when you share. And,
Yes.
Doing a lot of reading, one of the things a book I was listening to this morning is John Maxwell's, and he's talking about your story. And, your story should be that the people that you've helped, the people that you've made a difference in lives, and and that's what we try to do when we're on the radio and we're trying to impart knowledge. Basically, the Funding, Fixing, and Flipping series is to help, our listeners create wealth, and that's always important. So, thank you for joining me on this, and hopefully we can make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So in keeping with the theme of my show, I normally like to start off with either a tip of the week or something that I've read on the internet that kind of introduces the topic. So today I'm going to read an excerpt that I found on the Connected Investors blog, because I'm a connected investor. And I found it in the Connected Investors blog, and it talks about a landlord LLC benefits. And this is what it says. If you hold and rent real estate, this article could offer a massive insight on one possible way to structure your company. We're not giving legal advice, just questions for you to ask your asset protection attorney. Keeping in mind the risk associated with opening your business as a sole proprietorship, consider using this scenario for your business. Open an LLC, purchase a property, but don't manage it. That's right. Don't be the one to manage the property. You can use the combination of a C-Corp and an LLC. Let the C-Corp manage the company. This is good to reduce your liabilities. How, you may ask? Let's take an example. For the last 4 months, the tenants have been complaining that the parking lot in the complex you own is too dark. They don't feel safe walking to and from their cars at night and want you to install more streetlights to brighten up the area. They continue to complain to the management company, the C-Corp, letting them know of this issue. Having not addressed the concerns, the parking lot remains dark, and one night, while walking in from her car, a young mother of two who live in your property is robbed at gunpoint in the dark parking lot. When she sues, Who's liable? The LLC? They own the property, so it'd be them, right? Wrong. The C-Corp, as the management entity, is the responsible party when it comes to any damages and liabilities incurred because of this incident. The LLC, having limited liability, is protected. This is something very important to keep in mind when making the decision of which type of entity you wish to use. So this is very good information, and we are going to be dissecting this information on this episode today. So before I bring on Trevor and we get into our discussion today, here's a word from our sponsor. Are you looking to invest in the South Florida market? The time is ripe for investors. Call My Helps Real Estate Investment Services, LLC at 954-999-6125 for all your sales, rentals, and property management services. We are licensed in real estate and property management and will buy or lease your home. So don't delay. Call today, 954-999-6125. Now, let me give you a little short bio on Trevor. As I mentioned earlier, Trevor is a professional speaker, a real estate investor, a retail sales owner, speaker trainer for the Rich Dad Education, and founder of his own personal awakening brand, Being Normal Self. Yay. Trevor has been married for now 20 years. Just haven't had an anniversary. Congratulations. And have two beautiful daughters, ages 22 and 18. So once again, welcome to the show, Trevor. I'm hoping to glean a lot from you today, as even though I have an LLC, I'm pretty sure that I'm not using it to its fullest potential. So, yeah. All right. So, my very first question is, what are the pros and cons of an LLC? Right. So that's actually your topic. So, my first question is, I learned about the specifics of having an LLC because when I started my company, I went directly to the C-Corp. And in your class, I learned about the asset protection and setting up your company and the benefit of an LLC as opposed to a C-Corp. So tell our audience why that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, education starts off the real estate investment with the asset protection class. Why is understanding that foundation so important?
Well, when it comes to taxes, you get a lot of benefits through taxes from real estate. And so when you're investing properly with the right structure and with the right type of income, you're going to be exposing yourself both monetarily and liability-wise when it comes to taxes. And so you want to actually understand exactly what you're going to be getting into when it comes to taxes based on what you'll be doing through investing, the income you're earning or the profits that you're holding, because the more you do, obviously, the more you're exposing yourself to liability and legal action. And obviously you're exposing yourself more to more income being taxed. So it's to your benefit to understand how you should structure yourself entity-wise that will affect how you're taxed and how much money you get to keep through your investing, because a lot of it has to do more so with your structure than it is what you actually do in real estate. So if you're structured properly, it will definitely reduce your taxable liability and also increase your liability as far as being sued or being targeted for your profits or for your equity.
So that's very true, because I mean, a lot of people do things as sole proprietor, and then you've got the LLC in the middle, and then you've got the C-Corp. Now, one of the reasons I specifically went to the C-Corp because I had this information that you can start all over with a C-Corp and get new money, and it's a separate entity and all that stuff. And of course, as soon as I started my C-Corp, I realized that that's not true. That that when you go to the bank, it's not like you're going to say, okay, I have this new entity, give me money. No,
Right.
until you can prove that that entity is making money and self-supporting, you still have to personally guarantee all loans and all that. And that's the reason that I went to mine. Again, not talking to an attorney or any kind of tax thing. I just picked up stuff. And then when I came to your class, you said that, the only benefit of having a C Corp is when is when you're making money because of what you can write off. If you're not making any money, then it's useless, right? And, then we went into, the benefits of an LLC. So
Yeah.
I understand, right? So I understand, which is why, the real estate investing class starts off with structure, right? And
Right.
so that people can understand.
Yes, because a C corp does have its benefits in real estate. A C corp is typically a management type of corporation that manages your other C corps if you have any. Definitely your S corps and also your LLCs. It's sort of the benefits if you're making substantial income because your flow through corporations such as your S corps is what's used to properly through structure funnel income from LLCs through S corps through your C corps, and a C corp. The benefit of a C corp again is more layering and also the ability to take income that's properly being tax deferred, flow them through an S corp into a C corp. So now you can go and buy your big ticket items with that income to again better shield yourself and also again to lessen your taxable liability.
Okay, so that's awesome. All right. Well, that actually, opens up the path to my next question because my next question would would you explain to our listeners what exactly is the difference between an S corp, a C corp, and an LLC as it relates to real estate investment or as it relates to any business?
Well, we'll start off with the LLC. There are two types of LLCs. There's a single member LLC and a multiple member LLC. Neither LLC, single or multiple, give you any tax advantages. What they do offer you is what's called limited liability, and you get that through a multiple member LLC only. A single member LLC is just like a sole proprietor. You get no taxable benefits, nor do you get any asset protection because you're a sole proprietor. You need to be a multiple member LLC to achieve the asset protection portion that entity or that company gives you. And with a single member LLC, you don't receive that. So you want to hold your properties, yes, in a LLC to limit your liability, but you want to make that be a multiple member LLC. Now, again, that all is dependent upon how you're holding the property, how long you intend to hold the property, how much income you're possibly making for that property, equity, so on and so forth. And also if you're holding it by yourself or with joint tenants. So the purpose of a LLC is for asset protection, but if you are a single member LLC, people tend to think that you get a taxable benefit for an LLC when you do not. It's just your way of letting the IRS know that whatever you do, you're doing it as a quote unquote business, and you do get tax write-offs or you do get not tax write-offs, but you do get expenses that could be expensed through the LLC as long as those expenses are directly related to the LLC. So you're very, very limited on what you can expense because you're pretty much you're going to be pretty detailed as to what your business does. Now, a S-Corp is a corporation, and a S-Corp stands for self-corporation. And that's what most individuals that are self-employed, they have. They have an S-Corp. Now, an S-Corp's purpose is to create invoices and pretty much to spend money through expenses that the S-Corp cannot write off, but expense through the S-Corp itself. It's a flow-through corporation. So the S-Corp does not pay taxes. What the S-Corp does is the income that is created through the S-Corp, the income is then expensed through invoices that is charged to the S-Corp. So if the S-Corp made $50,000, you want to try to create as much expenses of that $50,000 as possible, because whatever is remaining, let's say you had $35,000 worth of expenses out of the $50,000, $15,000 will flow through the majority shareholder. And what the S-Corp will do is the S-Corp will file a K-1 and pass that income on to the shareholder, and then that income is now taxed at the shareholder individual tax rate. So that's why you want to create as much expenses through that S-Corp as possible to reduce your taxable liability that'll be passed on to you as a shareholder. So typically what the structure is, you create your income either through the LLC or through the S-Corp. You expense your income through the S-Corp, flow that through to a C-Corp possibly, and then and that's typically a lot of income, a lot of money. So the S-Corp is a flow-through corporation. S-Corp does not pay taxes. Now the C-Corp, it does pay taxes. And with the C-Corp stands for corporate corporation. And the income in the C-Corp, as the income flows through, people call a C-Corp a double taxation entity. It's not necessarily that. The reason why it looks that way is because the income that is created through the C-Corp is taxed at the C-Corp level. And then whatever is passed through the C-Corp, again, falls in the lap of that majority shareholder. And then it's now taxed as income to that majority shareholder, which again will be taxed at that shareholder individual tax rate. So again, you want to create as much expenses through the C-Corp as possible to reduce the amount of taxable income that'll be passed through the C-Corp onto the majority shareholder.
Okay. All right. Well, that was very detailed, and thank you very much for that. I learned a few new things. I'm listening to you. Now, I want to go back and ask a question regarding the single and multiple member LLC. So let's say that a wife has a real estate business, right? She's the realtor, and she's an investor or something. Let's say like me. But when she creates her LLC, in order to take advantage of all the benefits, then she should add maybe like her spouse or something. That becomes a multiple member LLC. And also, I think the government also looks at it as like a partner, multiple member. Is that right?
Yes. Typically, if you're going to invest with a partner or your spouse, and whether you're holding your primary residence or you're holding investment property, what typically people do is they create two separate LLCs that will become members of one LLC. So the entitlement and the equity is split 50-50 between both parties. One party's LLC and the other party's LLC. They both come together and they purchase a property under one LLC. So now the benefits now are split 50-50 between either the husband and wife or the two partners. Now that LLC will probably be controlled by a S-Corp, and that will be to afford the S-Corp the opportunity to expense any income that may be coming through from the LLC, and that income may be passed on down to the C-Corp if it's substantial income. So that's pretty much how people hold them.
Okay. So, but what you're saying, that's obviously all very complicated. But what you're saying is definitely that they should, there's no really benefit in holding an LLC by yourself. You should always have like a partner, right?
Correct. Yes. Another member. Right.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So that is awesome. So we talked about the benefits of an LLC. We talked about the S-Corp, meaning a self-corporation. So basically, it's just flowing through. You create that so that you can expense most of it off. And if you're still having money that, is left over, then it's going to be filed as a K-1. But the trick is that when you're talking to your tax attorney or whoever is setting this up for you, I'm gleaming from what you're saying is that, when you create the S-Corp is because you know that you can expense everything out. So you really don't have to, you shouldn't be, putting anything through to the K-1, right?
Right, yeah, because your tax professional will sit down with you and find out what exactly you're doing in your corporation, and then he or she will provide justification as to why this expense is an expense through the corporation, because a lot of expenses that you cannot expense through a LLC, you can through an S-Corp if your tax preparer can properly justify the expense.
Awesome. And then, of course, the C-Corp, a lot of people say, you're right, it's double taxation. But what you're saying, it's not really double taxation. And it's the best one, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they just say that it is.
Yeah, yes. It's what's used for when you're making big money. Because understand, the S-Corp doesn't pay taxes, all right? Mm-hmm. So if you're making a lot of money, and you can't expense all of it, and then if you make $500,000, you don't want to make that through an S-Corp because you're not going to be able to expense the whole
all of it, right.
Mm-hmm. So then the K-1 is filed, and you're going to be taxed on a lot of money. So if you can get that shifted now down to your C-Corp, it'll now be taxed at the C-Corp level and then flow through profits through the shareholders, which can now be expensed again for the shareholders and then be left over as a salary. And then typically, if you're making big money in a C-Corp, a lot of your shareholders or majority shareholders take a lot of that income as a bonus to, again, lessen their taxable exposure.
Okay. All right. That's a new thing. Yeah. Take as a bonus instead of a salary, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You must take a salary.
What was that?
You must take a salary.
You must take a salary, but then you have...
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Right. Take a small salary.
Okay. And then take everything as the rest as a bonus, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. Well, I am sure that, our listeners learned a lot from that. So thank you very much. That was very important to set the foundation for what we're talking about. Yeah, you always need to have an understanding of the basics and the foundation, and then you expand from that. All right, so let's take a quick station break, and we'll be right back to get into some of the pros and cons. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Stop overpaying for prescription drugs. With the Discount Drug Network's free prescription discount card, save up to 85% on your prescription medication. Go to myddcard.com now and learn more. Even if you have health insurance, our cards can save you money on drugs that are not covered by your insurance provider. We even offer fundraising opportunities. Learn more. Go to myddcard.com now and stop overpaying for your prescription drugs. myddcard.com. Do it now.
Welcome back to the Mindset Transformation Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and my co-host today is Mr. Trevor Evans, speaker trainer with the Rich Dad Education series. And in the beginning of our first segment, we talked about the foundation of how you set up your business, whether you're going to be doing it as a sole proprietor, an LLC, an S-Corp, and a C-Corp. Really didn't touch much on the sole proprietor because it's really not even recommended. So Trevor gave us a very detailed explanation of the three major structures and how you can use them to keep your money so that you won't be having a business and paying all the taxes. All right. Now, as we get into our second segment, I want to talk about a rental property because a lot of people, including myself, have rental properties and they keep in their own personal name, either because they purchased a loan. They got a loan and it's their personal name, or to just, set it up that way. So since, the introduction said that, you shouldn't have, the rental property in your name, that you should have it managed so that you reduce your liability because the management company is the one that, would be responsible for any kind of lawsuit. So my question to Trevor is, if you have a rental property in your personal name, what are the pros and cons of transferring that property to an LLC with or without a mortgage?
Well, the pros is if you have your investment property in a corporate in a LLC, it does limit your liability if it's a multiple member LLC, and it also gives you the ability to expense certain things that you may not be able to as a sole proprietor, because you may file a document called a 2553 that will allow the LLC to expense certain income as a S-Corp would without providing a bylaw for the expense, dependent upon the expense not being too extravagant. And people think that they cannot move a property out of their name into an LLC name if the property has a mortgage on it, that's not correct, because there's a federal law called the Garnes-St. Germain Depository Institution Act of 1982, which allows for a property to be put into a corporation name or a LLC name without triggering the due on sale clause. And the key to doing that is the property must be transferred, or the transaction must be done through a inter vivos land trust. And if it's done in an inter vivos land trust, then the bank cannot or will not call the loan due, because you necessarily do not give up the collateral is still maintained by you. It's just not maintained in your name. So the pros to that, again, is your asset protection, and then providing you possibly more avenues of expenses if you have a lot coming in a few properties or more. You want to create as much expenses as you can, and you do that by filing that 2553 that will allow you to claim expenses or to create expenses that wouldn't necessarily be required by a bylaw.
Awesome. All right. So, if anybody wants to transfer, so you're recommending that anybody that has a rental property in their name, they should transfer it to an LLC, because not only the liability, but they're allowed to claim some more expenses that they can't claim if they were a sole proprietor. Now, it's obviously very easy to do if there's no mortgage on it, and if there's a mortgage on it, then they would need to talk to their attorney and have them set up a land trust, because if they don't, then right. Sorry.
It doesn't become less easier. It just becomes more expensive.
Right. Okay. More expensive. Right. Of course. Right.
Because it will cost money to create that land.
What'd you say?
Because it will cost money to create that land trust.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So at least though they have an out, because before you're saying that this new law was established, they weren't able to do it because, as you said, that as soon as you transfer ownership, then the due until clause, which means that you got to pay off mortgage. Right.
They were able to do it because the paragraph 17, which is the due on sale clause, that came into effect in 1981.
Okay.
Because before 81, you could sell a property and transfer the deed without paying off the lien. Well, that caused a lot of problems, and one of the problems it caused was the catalyst to the S&L scandal, which is a bigger story or deeper story that I won't get into now. But it was that S&L scandal. It was that S&L scandal that triggered the need for the banks to put into all mortgages paragraph 17. Now, it didn't prevent you from selling your home to an LLC and not paying off your loan. It just caused you now to have to do it the proper way per the law that was created in 81, because the Garden St. Germain Law Act was created in 82 after the banks put into place paragraph 17.
Excellent. More details that we missed the first time around. Awesome. Well, that's great. Yeah, I have to go ahead and do that too. I mean, I've set up my, management company, but then, I just have to go ahead and transfer my rental property into an LLC. So I definitely have to do that. Good information. Awesome. So, I was listening to a webinar the other day, and they were talking about states that are the best for forming an LLC. And Florida was one of the top 6 states. And I hear all the time about, I heard also when I was, investigating this topic, that some of the 6 states have some better laws as far as, real estate investment and the landlord protection and tenant rights and all that. So I'm going to ask you a 2-part question. The first one is, what are some benefits of, states other than Florida? Because, we're in Florida. And the second part of that is, I know my sister, for instance, lives here in Florida, and somebody opened an LLC for her in another state because it's supposed to be better. Can you touch on that as that pertains to real estate investment?
Well, what makes Florida one of the best is a organic law or act that Florida has is the Homestead Act, which pretty much protects your home from litigious behavior from being taken, or the equity being taken. And also Florida is also one of the best, not the best, but one of the better states for non-disclosure. It's all about non-disclosure more so than anything else, because there are some states that keep their businesses and whoever owns them and all that they keep them pretty much under wraps. And so you will see people create LLCs in Wyoming, Nevada, and Delaware because of those states' aggressive non-disclosure policies. And so if property is controlled by an LLC in one of those other states, and the property happens to be here in Florida, then if the individual that is suing the person that owns the property here in Florida, once they learn that the property is actually controlled by a LLC in Nevada or Delaware or Wyoming, then actually the case must be tried and held in Wyoming, Delaware, or Nevada. So that means that they have to find an attorney in that state, have to find a judge in that state. So everything moves to that state if they choose to go that far. So that's one of the. It's also a deterrent, because if you own a property here in Florida and you go through all the processes to take legal action here in Florida, that's fine. But you want to go further, you now have to take legal action in the state that actually controls the property here in Florida, and that may cost you even more money and more time, and so it may deter people from wanting to proceed now, because everything has to be done by a licensed state licensed attorney in that particular state, and the case is not tried in that state.
Wow, that is great. Didn't hear that one before. Yeah, so
it's all in the questions, right, Myrna?
I did not hear that one before. I actually heard them say that if you own property in Florida and you're holding your LLC in, let's say, in Nevada, then you also have to do something in Nevada as well. You have to pay them taxes or something like that. So I thought that's where you were going to go. I didn't know it was a good thing.
It's a good thing, yeah. And the reason why it's like that is because in order for now most states are following that now, because people will go to Nevada and open these LLCs or these corporations and just go straight there. And so now there are some states that require you to create a corporation or LLC here before you can go and create one somewhere else. So again, they're saying, look, pay since the property is here or business is here or whatnot. We want to get paid because the actual property is located here in Florida. But Nevada is getting all the money. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's their way of saying, well, pay us first and then go get your stuff somewhere else. So it's again, it all boils down to money again.
Yeah, you only get away with something for a short while until they close the loophole.
Yeah.
It always, so sometimes you got to jump on the bandwagon right away. When you see something that's too good to be true, you jump on the bandwagon because somebody is going to come around and close that loop for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's always the person that's on the wrong end of the loophole that does it too.
Yeah. That, like they say, I'm just thinking like one rotten apple spoils the whole, darn pot. But, somebody goes and does something wrong, and then they, everybody creates a hoopla, and then they go and they close the loophole. Like, Airbnb came out, and everybody was making lots of money because these homes were now making all this money. And then, of course, now all the states are getting involved. All the states are now saying, well, hey, I need some money too. Almost the same thing we're talking about.
It's all about money.
Now the states are saying now you got to register your property and you got to pay taxes on it and you've got to do this because, the hotels started complaining first because, hey, we're not making any money because these homeowners are renting their stuff out and they're not charging any taxes and we're not getting any income. So, yeah, even Uber, everybody. You start off with a good thing, and then sooner or later, the government comes in and regulates it and shuts it down because somebody complains. It's, sometimes you just got to jump on the bandwagon before it changes.
It will.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
change.
So, okay. So, now you mentioned that Florida is good because of its organic laws of the homestead. I think like we're probably like the only state that have that homestead clause, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah, it's just amazing.
And that's why I
Go ahead.
transfer wealth down here.
Yeah, it's and that is something that is so so critical that you can actually file bankruptcy and keep your home. It's
Yep.
absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of the stars and all those people come here because of that. They don't have to
They
they're
transfer their wealth
oh,
down here, and
yeah.
they use the laws to their advantage.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you got a good attorney. That's what they do. So they tell you how to, keep some of your money. And then a non-disclosure law. So let me understand that correctly. The non-disclosure law is if I were to go, like this is how I'm interpreting it. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. So let's say that I own this property and I own it not in my personal name, but I own it in a corporation or LLC or something. When you're saying non-disclosure, which means that somebody can't go to court and find out, is that what that means?
Well, they can. They
Mm-hmm.
can. It's just going to be a lot of process and a lot of money, and
Oh, really?
it all depends on what the case is too, and what the damages are that they're filing for. Because real estate law falls under a lot of under different criteria than any other civil case or any other case, because real estate cases are tried and are heard and tried by a judge. There's typically there is no jury trials in real estate cases, and so your judge hears everything, and your judge hands out the sentences and hands out the ruling. So there's no, and if you're a landlord or a plaintiff in a real estate case, you're pretty much guilty until proven innocent.
Oh,
so that's why there's so that's why there's
I
so
like
many
that one.
Yeah, and that's why there are these states that provide against aggressive non-disclosure, because most plaintiffs in a real estate trial, they had to prove their innocence before, because they're all. I mean, I'm not saying that they're tried, they're guilty, but it's they're looked at in a guilty fashion before they're ever looked at in a non
right. Okay.
way, because they're the rich investor,
Okay. Huh. I got you. So, and I heard that, Nevada is, where it all started and how they're a pretty good state for real estate because of, the mob or something that started. And I understand that Delaware is good because that's where that's where all the credit card people are there. So they're obviously good for something like that. And I'm not sure what's going on with Wyoming, but you mentioned Wyoming. So, out of 6 states, would you say which would be the best according to you for real estate investors?
Well, you can keep it at Nevada and Wyoming.
Okay.
Nevada because it's the oldest.
Okay.
And Wyoming is the up and coming, per se. And anything financial and anything having to do with money and finances, the best one is Delaware. Because if you look at all of your credit cards, they're pretty much out of Delaware.
Yeah. So their
Delaware,
laws are, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Delaware has the best non-disclosure for financial institutions.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I love this conversation. We're learning so much. All right. So let's take our second break, and we will come back to wrap up our segment on the pros and cons of LLCs in the real estate investment business. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Stop overpaying for prescription drugs. With the Discount Drug Network's free prescription discount card, save up to 85% on your prescription medication. Go to myddcard.com now and learn more. Even if you have health insurance, our cards can save you money on drugs that are not covered by your insurance provider. We even offer fundraising opportunities. Learn more. Go to myddcard.com now and stop overpaying for your prescription drugs. myddcard.com. Do it now.
Welcome back to the Mindset Transformation Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and today we have continued our series on the funded fixing and flipping, and that's basically a real estate investment series. And what we've been talking about in this segment is structure of your real estate investment company. And the point of structure is just so that you're investing, which means that you're spending money to make money, and if you're structured properly, then you get to keep some of it. I don't like to praise Donald Trump, but he has been an expert in this. People talk all the time about how he's a billionaire and he not pay any taxes, because he's got good lawyers. He's got people that, advise him how to do things. And the reason he's not in jail is because he never did it any illegally. He did it legally. He spent his money and he kept it. In fact, he probably didn't even use much of his own money. He just used leverage. So, which is also the best way to do it. Make money off of someone else's money. So, so what Trevor has been telling us today is that an LLC, a multiple member LLC, is like the best format for your real estate investment company, especially when you're starting out. As you start to make more money, then you can transfer it to an S-Corp and a C-Corp and just funnel your money, because each one of those entities allows you more things that you can write off. And of course, so there's no point making $50,000 and having to pay taxes on $50,000 when you can transfer that to an S Corp and write off some more stuff, and then transfer some more of it to C Corp and write off some more stuff, right? So unless you just want to beat the government. So as we wrap up, I'm just going to ask Trevor, do you have anything more that you want to add to our conversation today?
I just want to say, you definitely want to be very, very careful when it comes to your taxes and your entities in real estate, because if you get the wrong advice, you definitely will do the wrong thing and expose yourself in more than one way that you would like. So try and seek out the best possible attorneys and tax preparers you can, and be specific in what your intentions are in your business, and I would try to. I'm not trying to say that the more expensive the attorney and tax preparer, the better, but it doesn't have to be that way. But you definitely want to find an attorney or a tax preparer that gives you contrast to what you're hearing out there from regular normal investors, because if you're doing investing the right way and you're creating money in that investment, and you're buying property and holding property, you definitely want to seek out the best advice as possible. And like Warren Buffett said, spend whatever it takes to be the safest and most secure, and then spend whatever it takes to stay that way. That's just, I'll just say, take that advice.
I like that. But, you got to have the money to spend first. How is he telling you how to get the money to spend?
Well, just understand that even if when you do find that money, or you do find that attorney that's expensive or whatever, that's also right off too. So, you'll definitely try to get at least some, if not all of it back, if you do it properly.
Yes. I got it. I like that. I'm going to quote that one. Awesome. All right. So that's an excellent way to wrap up. We're just here to give you a little bit of understanding, but the next step is definitely for you to expand on it on your own, or go and get some, proper counseling. So it's always good to know a little bit, but the experts know a lot. So, all right. So how can the audience get in touch with you if they wanted to, you know, um, support you in any way as far as, maybe, buying some of your products or, they want any kind of, advice or mentoring or any of that stuff? Tell us how they can get a hold of you.
Definitely, they can reach out to me at www.beingnormalsucks.com. And on that site, there's a avenue to reach out to me, and also avenues to buy apparel and things of that nature with the Being Normal Sucks. And I'm really ramping up that brand now. Hopefully by fall, winter time, it'll be a substantial a brand, and more will be done in it. But for now, it's an avenue to reach out to me. But as time goes on, I'm definitely working on getting that expanded and getting more feedback into it and more availability for others to reach out and be a part of the experience, because I'll be taking that experience pretty soon on the road. So look out for that.
Nice. I love that. Nice road show. Also, can't wait to get some T-shirts. Are those out yet?
Oh, yeah, they're out. Yeah, I'll get you one.
Okay.
Or a few.
Yeah, I definitely want one of those. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure, listening to you. It's been a pleasure learning from you. Thank you so much for taking the time to impart your knowledge. You're giving back. So thank you so much. All right. So if you found this information inspiring, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Then send me an email to info@myhelps.us with the subject line podcast review, and I will send you a free gift. And the free gift is a workbook to change your mindset to a growth mindset. It is something I created that's called the Mindset Shift Focus Wheel. And this is so important for success in investment. If you look for an opportunity with the eyes of an investor and not with the eye of an employee, as an investor, an employee mindset, you look at things with limits and security. When you look at it from an investor mindset, then you realize what you do know, you don't know, right? That's actually a quote from Mr. Trevor Evans right here. Remember saying that in class?
Yeah.
Right. So changing your mindset is very important to success in any field, whether it's relationships, career, wealth management, anywhere. And you have to have a growth mindset. And a growth mindset says that where you are today is not where you want to end up. And you have to take the limits off. You have to take the caps off. We are limitless. So the focus wheel will help you to start to make that shift. So again, send me an email, rate and review the podcast, send me an email, and I will send you that free. Now, if you are listening to this on the radio, then basically in order to subscribe to the podcast, you can look for Transform Your Mind with Coach Myrna on iTunes. If you do not have an iPhone, then you can access the podcast from my blog, which is blog.myhelps.us. We are out of time. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Transformation Radio Show on podcast. We are here on the radio every Wednesday on your afternoon drive between 5 and 6, and the show is converted every week as well to a podcast. So there's several different ways for you to access it. If you would like to be a guest on the show, again, send me an email at info@myhelps.us, or you can visit me on my website, which is www.myrna, MYRNA, Young, YOUNG, helps, HELPS.com. Until next time, I want to say namaste. And once again, Trevor, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Until next time.